Happy Thursday! All right, let's go into our book today. Jessica, the new girl. I always know when it's Jessica talking because she talks in acts. Act 3, Scene 1. You know, her dad writes plays, and she really misses him. All right, Act 3, Scene 1. Things weren't going well. I had betrayed Alexia by being nice to Danielle, thinking that is what Belle Teal would have done. And then Danielle suddenly turned on me without warning. I knew Alexia was behind it. I was alone, except for the friends I had in my books, like Belle and Anna. In November, Mr. Trupp introduced us to a book that the whole class would be reading, The Summer of Swans by Betsy Beers. I had never read this one, or anything by Miss Beers for that matter. This book won the Newbery Medal back in 1971. Mr. Trupp said, as he held up the book, "It's not full of action like you guys tend to think of action, but it is a beautifully written book that is going to give us an awful lot to think about, learn from, and maybe even change because of it." I straightened up. I was excited. Peter moaned. As for Alexia, well, she was somewhere in La La Land. The boys made faces and the girls exchanged glances. Then Mr. Trupp went a step further. "We're not just going to read the book," he said. "We're going to do an activity with it. An ongoing activity. More like an experience." Now even Alexia was listening, back from outer space. "What kind of activity?" Peter demanded. "Not some sort of stupid book project, I hope. I hate those." No project. I don't really like those things either," Mr. Trupp said. What did he have in mind, I wondered. "You're going to make us dress up as a character, aren't you?" Alexia said. "Oh, I love doing that." "Get real," Peter said. "Will you guys be quiet and let Trupp finish?" Geoffrey said. That worked. No more interruptions, and Mr. Trupp continued. "I want you guys to think about this book. In the story, there's a boy with Down syndrome. That's a mental disorder, named Charlie, and his older sister, not much older than you guys, named Sarah. They have a pretty special relationship. That's what I want all of you to think about." Mr. Trupp stopped for a second, yet somehow we stayed quiet. He continued, "So what you're going to do is visit our collaborative classroom downstairs over the next few weeks. You'll go in groups in the mornings and in the afternoons to simply spend time with these children doing what it is that they do." "Mr. Trupp," I raised my hand. "What exactly is the collaborative classroom?" Still being relatively new to the school, I didn't know. "It's where the retards go," Peter said. Alexia laughed. "I hope you'll answer that question a little differently after this experience, Peter," Mr. Trupp said. His tone was very serious. Peter didn't say another word. "It's a special classroom for children with a range of special needs, Jessica," Mr. Trupp continued. "Some of you are probably a little nervous or even scared. That's why you'll go in groups. I hope you all feel differently afterward, too." Act 3, Scene 2. My group consisted of Anna and Geoffrey. I still hadn't quite figured Geoffrey out. On the other hand, I'd been eating lunch with Anna ever since she'd been ostracized by Alexia and her clan. Danielle was back in. I was out. But I didn't want back in. I much preferred my time with Anna. She's quiet, but she's a lot smarter than everyone thinks. She's the only girl smart enough to stay out of Alexia's nonsense. Her mom's advice, she told me. We hadn't talked about her mom or any of the stuff I learned from Danielle. And I hadn't told her anything about me either. For now, we kept our secrets, and that's okay. I like Anna. She made a great friend to a character in a book or in one of Dad's plays. I know she's going to be a great friend of mine. We were very quiet in our first trip downstairs. Not one of us uttered a single sound. My hands longed to hold a book, but I hadn't brought one, so I bit my fingernails and cuticles instead. It's funny how when you're anxious to get somewhere, the journey seems like it takes forever, but when you're not anxious, the journey seems to take no time. My journey from California lasted as long as a ride on the Viper roller coaster, and our journey to the collaborative classroom took no time at all either. When we arrived, it was clear the teacher was expecting us. Hi guys, she said. Welcome to our collaborative classroom. I'm Miss Kelsey. We introduced ourselves and then she led us inside. This is Joey. Miss Kelsey pointed to a little boy with boogers all over his face. Can you say hi to our friends, Joey? Miss Kelsey asked. Joey waved in our direction. A gigantic smile stretched across his face. And this is James over here, Miss Kelsey said, pointing to a different boy. James looked pretty normal to me. He didn't say hi to us, though. He didn't even look at us. This is Emily over here. The little girl Miss Kelsey pointed out was very cute. She had drool all over her face and hands and arms, and she moaned a lot. A different teacher used sign language as she tried to communicate with Emily. The teacher struggled to maintain eye contact with her. She told Emily to say hi. That's Miss Warner helping Emily right now. Emily tried to say hi to us, but I could tell she wasn't too particularly good at talking. There were a few other children in the room, and Miss Kelsey eventually introduced us to all of them. I became distracted at this point because Jeffrey had walked over to Joey and started playing the game of memory with him. I couldn't believe it. I heard him say, "That's a great job, Joey. You're really smart." And Joey smiled. Anna and I were on our way with Miss Kelsey and James and Emily to help them do their jobs. Before we left the room, I saw Joey giving Jeffrey a big hug. Act 3, Scene 3. Jobs turned out to be the sorting of plastic forks, spoons, straws, and napkin for the cafeteria. Miss Kelsey poured the utensils on the table, and James said, 712. I looked at Anna, puzzled. What do you mean, James? I asked. 712, he said again, looking down at the table. Does he always say 712? I asked. I figured he was yelling out random numbers. No, James is telling us that there are 712 utensils on the table, Miss Kelsey said. 712 utensils on the table, James repeated, this time looking at Anna and me and swaying a little as he stood. Great job, James, Miss Kelsey sounded so excited. You looked at our friends when you said that. Miss Kelsey, do you mean James is right? Anna asked. Are there really 712? Is it the same amount every day or something? Well, I haven't actually counted them to double check. And no, it's not always 712, but James has never been wrong, Miss Kelsey said. Anna and I exchanged astonished looks. I was confused. James had done this amazing counting, but Miss Kelsey seemed more excited that he had looked at me. I wanted to ask questions, but I decided to wait. I didn't know if asking was appropriate. We finished up the jobs and walked back to get Jeffrey. Act 3, Scene 4. Jeffrey was still playing with Joey, as well as a couple other kids now. He was helping them paint. Jeffrey, I said, he looked up. We have to go back now. Oh, okay. His shoulders slumped. He turned to the kids. I've got to go, guys. I'll be back soon. And then it was hug time again. We thanked Miss Kelsey and headed back upstairs. We didn't talk on the way through the halls. I think we had too many thoughts in our brains. By the time we reached our classroom, Jeffrey was Grumpy Jeffrey again. Our very own Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I thought. All right, so we learned that they are going to be reading a new book in the class, and one of the main characters has Down syndrome, which is a mental disorder. So Mr. Terrupt has the kids going to a collaborative classroom to see the children who maybe need a little bit of extra help with their work. So let's see, it was Jeffrey, Anna, and Jessica who got to go down together, and they were in a group. And I think for the first time, they're probably a little nervous, as most people are the first time they go somewhere. But I think they ended up liking it, being very interested in it. So I think Mr. Terrupt is onto something with his idea of sending them down to the classroom. All right, tomorrow we'll learn from Jeffrey's point of view. Bye, guys.